The mining colony sat on the edge of nowhere, a collection of prefabricated structures clinging to a barren moon that held more value beneath its surface than on it. Katie Morrison had been working there for 2 years now. Her contract with the Galactic Commerce Guild, paying better than anything she could find back on Earth. Though the work was hard and the company often difficult, she stood in the maintenance bay, her hands covered in grease as she calibrated the drilling equipment for the next shift. At 22 years old, Katie was considered young by human standards, though her co-workers from other species often thought she looked even younger. Her small frame and quick movements, reminding some of them of children from their own worlds. "You should not be doing that alone," Pip said from behind her, his voice high and musical in the way of all Quillans. He barely reached Katie's shoulder, his fur a soft gray that rippled when he moved. Large eyes blinking with concern as he watched her work, Katie smiled at him without looking away from her task, adjusting the pressure valves with practiced ease. "I'm almost done," she said. "Just need to finish these calibrations before the morning crew arrives. Dexler will be angry if he finds you here," Pip warned, his ears flattening against his head in anxiety. He does not like when others touch the equipment he considers his responsibility. Katie's smile faded slightly at the mention of the Vrexian shift leader. Dexler had been a problem since the day he arrived 3 months ago, his attitude toward anyone he considered weak growing worse with each passing week. The Vrexians were a warrior species, tall and powerful, with scales that could turn most blades and strength that came from evolving on a high-gravity world, or so they thought. "Anyway, the equipment doesn't belong to Dexler," Katie said quietly, making a final adjustment and stepping back to review her work. "It belongs to the colony, and if I don't fix it, someone's going to get hurt." That was the thing that had been bothering Katie for weeks now. Equipment kept malfunctioning in ways that seemed almost deliberate. Safety guards failing at convenient times. Pressure systems building to dangerous levels before anyone noticed. She had started documenting every incident, comparing failure patterns, running diagnostics that went deeper than the standard checks. What she found made her stomach turn. The malfunctions were deliberate, carefully designed to look like accidents, targeting specific machines used primarily by smaller species. Pip's repair station had nearly exploded last week when a pressure valve stuck closed. A Dendari worker lost 2 fingers when a cutting laser activated without warning. Every incident could be traced back to subtle tampering, the kind that required access and knowledge, the kind that required someone who knew the systems while Katie had her suspicions. But suspicions weren't proof, and accusing a Vrexian of sabotage without evidence would end her career at best. At worst, it might end with Dexler demanding satisfaction in the traditional Vrexian way, which usually meant someone ended up in the medical beige, pulled out her datapad and added today's calibration results to her growing file. The evidence was building, patterns emerging that even the most skeptical reviewer would have trouble dismissing. Vernon Drake, the human colony supervisor, needed to see this soon. "You look worried," Pip observed, moving closer with the careful steps of someone who had learned to be cautious around larger beings. "Is something wrong with the equipment?" Katie hesitated, then decided Pip deserved to know. He had been kind to her since her first day, helping her navigate the complex social dynamics of a multi-species workplace, warning her about potential problems before they became serious. "I think someone has been sabotaging the machines," she said carefully, keeping her voice low. "The malfunctions aren't accidents." Pip's ears shot straight up, his eyes widening. "Who would do such a thing?" He whispered before Katie could answer. The bay door slammed open with enough force to make them both jump. Dexler stood in the entrance, his massive frame blocking most of the light from the corridor beyond, scales gleaming dark green under the artificial lights. 2 other Vrexians flanked him, their expressions mirroring their leader's anger. "What are you doing with my equipment, human?" Dexler demanded, his voice a deep rumble that carried the weight of natural authority. He moved into the bay with slow, deliberate steps, each footfall heavy enough to feel through the floor. Katie straightened, meeting his eyes without flinching. "I'm doing my job," she said calmly. "The calibrations were off, so I fixed them." "You fixed nothing," Dexler snarled, moving closer until he loomed over her. "You are a weak little thing from a soft world, playing at being an engineer. You have no business touching equipment you do not understand." Katie felt Pip press against her leg, trembling but refusing to abandon her. She kept her breathing steady, her heart rate calm despite the clear threat in Dexler's posture. "I understand the equipment just fine," she said, her voice level. "And I understand when someone has been tampering with it." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Dexler's eyes narrowed, his scales rippling with tension. "What did you say?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "I said someone has been tampering with the equipment," Katie repeated, not backing down. "Safety systems have been compromised, and people have been getting hurt. I've documented everything." Dexler's hand moved to his belt, where he kept various tools of his trade. His fingers wrapped around a plasma cutter, modified in ways that definitely weren't standard issue. "You accuse me of sabotage?" he asked, though his tone made it clear he already knew the answer. Katie said nothing, but her silence was answer enough. "You will recant this insult," Dexler said, his companions moving to flank him in a practiced formation. "You will delete your files and admit you were mistaken. Or you will learn what happens when soft-worlders disrespect Rexian honor." "I've already sent copies to Supervisor Drake," Katie said, which was a lie but a useful one. "The evidence is in the system. Deleting my files won't change anything." Dexler's roar shook dust from the ceiling. He lunged forward, grabbing Pip by his uniform and lifting the small Quillen off the ground with one hand. "Then perhaps I need to send a clearer message about what happens to those who interfere with Rexian business," he snarled. Katie moved without thinking, stepping between Dexler and the door. "Put him down," she said, her voice carrying an edge that hadn't been there before. Dexler laughed, a harsh sound that held no humor. "Or what, little human?" he asked. "Will you stop me?" He threw Pip aside carelessly, the Quillen hitting the wall with a cry of pain. Then Dexler turned his full attention to Katie, pulling the modified plasma cutter free and activating it with a hiss of superheated energy. "I think it is time someone taught you the price of disrespecting your betters," he said. Raising the weapon, Katie's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her stance, her weight distributing differently, her hands coming up in a position that looked casual but wasn't. "Last chance to walk away," she said quietly. Dexler smiled, showing all his teeth. "No, human," he said. "Last chance for you." He moved to strike, the plasma cutter descending toward Katie's shoulder in an arc meant to maim rather than kill. And Katie Morrison, daughter of Earth, child of a death world that had tried to kill her species for millions of years, showed Dexler exactly why humans had survived when stronger predators had not. The plasma cutter never reached its target. Katie moved faster than Dexler's eyes could track, her small size suddenly an advantage as she dropped low and stepped inside his reach, her hands snapping up to catch his wrist with precision that spoke of training and muscle. Memory. Dexler's confidence shattered in the same instant as the bones in his wrist. Katie twisted with her whole body, using leverage and momentum rather than trying to match his strength, and the sound of breaking bone echoed through the maintenance bay like a gunshot. The plasma cutter clattered to the floor, still active, its blade scoring a line across the metal decking. He tried to pull away, shock and pain flooding his system, but Katie had already moved again. She drove her knee into the nerve cluster at the side of his leg, the impact calculated and controlled, dropping him to one knee with a roar of outrage. The two other Vrexians finally reacted, lunging forward to help their leader. They were bigger than Katie, stronger by any reasonable measure, warriors from a culture that prized combat ability above all else. They should have overwhelmed her easily. They didn't even get close. Katie spun away from Dexler's collapsing form, her movements fluid and economical. The first Vrexian swung a heavy fist at her head, the kind of blow that would have crushed a human skull if it connected. Katie swayed back just enough to let it pass, then stepped in and drove her palm into his throat with enough force to close his airway temporarily. He staggered back, gasping and choking. The second Vrexian was smarter, trying to grab her from behind rather than throwing wild punches. He got his arms around her waist, lifting her off the ground with triumphant strength. For a moment, it seemed like he had her. Then Katie drove her head back into his face, the impact of human skull against Vrexian nose producing a wet crunch. His grip loosened reflexively, and she dropped, spun, and swept his legs out from under him with a kick that used his own weight against him. He went down hard, his head bouncing off the floor. 3 seconds had passed since Dexler raised his weapon. 3 Vrexian warriors were on the ground, injured and confused, while Katie stood over them breathing easily, not even winded from the encounter. Thex looked up at her with something new in his eyes. Fear. "What are you?" he gasped, cradling his broken wrist. Katie didn't answer. She picked up the fallen plasma cutter and deactivated it, setting it carefully on a nearby workbench. Then she pulled out her communicator and called security with calm efficiency. "This is Engineer Morrison in Maintenance Base 7, she said, her voice steady. "I need security and medical." 3 individuals attempted assault with a deadly weapon. All 3 are injured, but stable. Pip had pulled himself upright against the wall, staring at Katie with wide eyes. "How did you?" he started to ask, but stopped when Katie held up a hand. "Are you hurt?" she asked him. Genuine concern in her voice. Pip shook his head slowly, still processing what he had just witnessed. "No," he whispered. "I am unharmed." The bay doors opened again, but this time it was Vernon Drake who entered, moving fast despite his age. The human supervisor took in the scene with experienced eyes. 3 Vrexians on the ground, Katie standing unharmed, Pip against the wall. His expression tightened with understanding. "Katie," Vernon said carefully, "what happened here?" Katie gestured to the modified plasma cutter on the workbench. "Dexler confronted me about the sabotage investigation," she explained. "He grabbed Pip and threw him, then raised that weapon and came at me. I defended myself." Vernon moved to check on Pip first, helping the small Quillen to his feet with gentle hands. "Are you okay?" he asked. "She saved me," Pip said quietly, still staring at Katie. "Dexler would have killed me." Dexler tried to speak, to protest, but Vernon cut him off with a sharp gesture. "Save it for security," the supervisor said coldly. "I've been documenting your behavior for weeks, waiting for you to make a mistake big enough to override your government's protection. Congratulations, you just committed assault with a deadly weapon in front of a witness." Security arrived moments later. A mixed team of 3 different species, all of them stopping short when they saw the Vrexians on the ground. The team leader, a Dendari named Crix, looked between them and Katie with obvious confusion. "What happened here?" Crix asked, her multiple eyes blinking in sequence. Vernon stepped forward, taking charge before anyone else could speak. "Dudgeclair and his associates attacked Engineer Morrison with a deadly weapon," he said firmly. "She defended herself using appropriate force. I want all 3 of them detained pending investigation, and I want medical to document their injuries thoroughly. The human attacked us." The second Vrexian protested, finally getting his breath back. "She is the one who should be arrested." Crix looked at Katie, taking in her small frame and calm demeanor, then looked back at the 3 much larger Vrexians who were claiming to be victims. "You are saying this one human overpowered 3 Vrexian warriors?" she asked skeptically. Check the security footage, Vernon said, pulling out his own datapad. Cameras in this bay were mysteriously offline, but I've been running backup recordings on a separate system for the past 2 weeks. Everything is documented. He worked his datapad for a moment, then turned the screen to show Crix. The Dendari's eyes widened as she watched the recording. Seeing Dexler raise the plasma cutter, seeing Katie's lightning-fast response, seeing the entire fight unfold in brutal clarity. I will need copies of that footage, Crix said quietly, her tone much more serious now. This is going to require a full investigation. Medical teams arrived and began treating the Vrexians. Their injuries significant but not life-threatening. Broken bones, bruised organs, damaged pride. Katie had hurt them just enough to stop the threat. Nothing more. As security led the 3 Vrexians away, Dexler looked back at Katie one more time. Your species will answer for this insult, he said, trying to summon dignity despite his injuries. The Vrexian government does not forget. Katie met his eyes without flinching. Neither do humans, she said quietly when the bay finally cleared, leaving just Katie, Vernon, and Pip. The supervisor let out a long breath. You know this is going to get complicated, he said to Katie. The Vrexians are going to make a lot of noise about this. I know, Katie said, finally allowing herself to relax slightly. But he raised his weapon first. I just made sure he couldn't use it, Vernon nodded slowly. I need to report this up the chain, he said. The Guild is going to want answers, and so is Earth's diplomatic corps. You might want to prepare for some attention. Pip moved closer to Katie, his earlier fear replaced by something like awe. You are from Earth? He asked, though he already knew the answer. A death world? Katie looked down at the small Quillen and smiled gently. Yes, she said. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. High gravity, aggressive predators, extreme weather, the whole package. I thought that was exaggeration, Pip admitted. Many species have dramatic stories about their homeworlds, Vernon laughed without humor. It's not exaggeration, he said. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We got good at surviving, and we got very good at fighting when we had no choice. But you seem so peaceful, Pip said, confused. Humans always talk about cooperation and friendship. Katie knelt down so she was at eye level with Pip. We are peaceful, she said gently. We choose cooperation because we're strong enough to know we don't need violence to prove ourselves. But when someone raises a weapon against us or against people we care about, they find out why we survived when bigger, stronger predators didn't. Pip was quiet for a moment, processing this new understanding. Thank you for protecting me, he finally said. Always, Katie promised. That's what friends do, Vernon's communicator buzzed insistently. He checked it, and his expression grew serious. The Guild wants a full deposition from everyone involved, he said. And the Vrexian government has already filed a formal complaint. This is going to go all the way to the top. Katie stood, squaring her shoulders. Then let's give them the truth, she said. I'm not sorry for defending myself or for protecting Pip. If the galaxy has a problem with that, they need to adjust their expectations. Vernon looked at her with something like pride. You sound like a soldier, he observed. You taught me well. Katie replied. The supervisor shook his head. I taught you basic self-defense, he corrected. What you did in here was combat training. Who taught you that? Katie smiled slightly. My father, she said. He was military before he retired. He always said the best fight is the one you avoid. But if you can't avoid it, end it fast. Smart man, Vernon said. Outside the maintenance bay, word was already spreading through the colony. A human engineer had defeated 3 Vrexian warriors in single combat. Impossible stories were becoming proven facts. And the galaxy was about to learn something important about the small, peaceful species from Earth. They were about to learn the humans didn't stay peaceful because they were weak. They stayed peaceful because they were strong enough to choose it. The colony's administrative center buzzed with activity as news of the incident spread across communication channels. Within hours, the footage of Katie's fight had reached a dozen worlds. Shared through official reports and unofficial gossip networks that connected the far reaches of galactic civilization, Katie sat in a small conference room, giving her statement to a guild investigator while Vernon waited outside. The investigator, a Pelthian named Qual, had compound eyes that seemed to look at her from multiple angles at once, his voice translator rendering his clicks and whistles into flat, emotionless speech. "You claim you acted in self-defense," Qual stated, reviewing his notes on a holographic display. "Yet 3 trained Rexian security personnel are in medical with significant injuries." "Dexler and his friends weren't security," Katie corrected calmly. "They were shift workers like me, and they attacked me with a deadly weapon. I stopped the threat using minimal necessary force." Qual's eyes shifted colors slightly. A sign Katie had learned meant he was considering something carefully. "Minimal force," he repeated. "You broke bones, caused internal bleeding, and rendered all 3 unconscious within seconds. I could have killed them," Katie said quietly. "Earth gravity is 3 times what Rexians evolved under. I'm physically stronger than they are, faster, with better reflexes and bone density that makes my body a weapon even without training. If I had wanted them dead, they would be dead." The investigator made a note. "You are saying you showed restraint?" "I'm saying I defended myself and protected a colleague," Katie replied. "Dexler raised his weapon first. Everything after that was just making sure he couldn't use it." Before Qual could respond, the conference room door opened and a new figure entered. She was human, tall, and confident, wearing the formal uniform of Earth's Terran Coordination Office. Her name tag read Commander Lisa Chan, and her presence immediately changed the atmosphere in the room. "This interview is over," Lisa announced, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Engineer Morrison is a human citizen working under guild contract, which means any investigation into her actions falls under joint jurisdiction. I'm invoking Earth's right to co-lead this inquiry." Qual's eyes flashed through several colors in rapid succession. "The guild has authority over all colony matters," he'd protested. "Not when a human's civil rights are at stake," Lisa countered smoothly. "Especially not when preliminary evidence suggests she was the victim of attempted assault. Read your regulations, investigator." Section 47, paragraph 12. Species-specific legal protections for Death World populations. Katie watched the exchange with interest. She had heard of the Terran Coordination Office, but never expected to meet anyone from it. The TCO was responsible for managing humanity's integration into galactic society, a job that apparently involved knowing guild regulations better than guild investigators. Qual consulted his display, his eyes dimming slightly as he found the relevant section. "Very well," he said stiffly. "I will suspend this interview pending joint review. But the Rexian government has filed formal charges. This matter will not simply disappear." "Good," Lisa said, "because I intend to file countercharges on behalf of Engineer Morrison and the Terran government. Attempted murder, conspiracy to cause harm, sabotage of safety equipment, and creating a hostile work environment." Katie's eyes widened. She hadn't expected Earth's government to get involved, let alone to go on the offensive. Qual looked equally surprised, his eyes cycling through colors that Katie had no reference for interpreting. "You are escalating this incident into an interstellar diplomatic matter," Qual warned. "Is that wise?" Lisa smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "The Rexians made it a diplomatic matter when they decided to attack a human citizen and then demand punishment when she defended herself. We're just responding appropriately." She turned to Katie. "Come with me," she said. "We have a lot to discuss." Katie followed Lisa out of the conference room, leaving Qual behind to process this new development. Vernon waited in the corridor, and Lisa acknowledged him with a professional nod before leading them both to a private office that had been set up for the TCO's use once. The door closed behind them. Lisa's formal demeanor softened slightly. "How are you holding up?" she asked Katie. "I'm okay," Katie said, though her hands were shaking slightly now that the adrenaline was fading. "I didn't mean to start an interstellar incident." Lisa pulled out a chair and gestured for Katie to sit. "You didn't start anything," she said firmly. "Dexler started it when he raised that weapon. You just finished it in a way that made people uncomfortable." Vernon leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. "The galaxy isn't ready to accept what humans are capable of," he observed. "They want us to be the friendly, cooperative newcomers who don't challenge existing power structures." "Exactly," Lisa agreed. "For the past 5 years, we've been very careful about managing expectations. We downplay our physical abilities. We emphasize cooperation and diplomacy. We avoid situations that might reveal just how dangerous we can be when threatened." Katie frowned. "Why?" she asked. "Why hide what we are?" Lisa pulled up a holographic display showing various species profiles and diplomatic reports. "Because the galaxy is built on hierarchies of strength," she explained. "The Vrexians are respected because they're warriors. The Vexians dominate trade because they're natural negotiators. Every species has their role, their place in the order of things. And humans?" Katie asked. "Humans don't fit," Lisa said simply. "We're physically superior to most species we've encountered. We adapt faster, we learn quicker, and we have this annoying habit of solving problems through cooperation instead of dominance. That makes us unpredictable. And unpredictable species make people nervous." Vernon added his own perspective. "I served in Earth's military for 20 years before coming out here," he said. "I've seen what humans can do when we stop holding back. The galaxy isn't ready for that. They're still figuring out how to deal with us being friendly." Katie absorbed this information, understanding dawning in her eyes. "So, by defending myself, I just revealed exactly what you've been trying to hide," she said. "Not exactly," Lisa corrected. "You revealed what we've been trying to manage. There's a difference. People were always going to find out eventually. Death World classification isn't just a label, it's a biological reality. Humans are stronger, faster, and more resilient than most species because we evolved on a planet that actively tried to kill us." She pulled up the footage of Katie's fight, watching it with professional assessment. "What you did here wasn't exceptional by human standards," she continued. "Basic self-defense training, good reflexes, appropriate force application. Any reasonably trained human could have done the same. That's what scares them," Vernon observed. "Yes," Lisa agreed. "Because if one small human engineer can defeat 3 Vrexian warriors without breaking a sweat, what could a trained human soldier do? What could 1,000 humans do? What about 1,000,000? Katie felt the weight of those questions. "We're not conquerors," she said quietly. "We don't want to dominate anyone." "I know," Lisa said gently. "And that's what I'm going to explain to the galaxy. Humans choose cooperation not from weakness, but from strength. We're peaceful because we're strong enough to afford peace. But we will absolutely defend ourselves and others when threatened." The holographic display shifted to show diplomatic communications flying between worlds. The Vrexian government demanding justice, other species requesting clarification, trade partners nervously asking about the stability of their agreements with Earth. "This is bigger than just you now," Lisa said to Katie. "Your fight in that maintenance bay has become a test case. How the galaxy responds will determine how they view humanity going forward." Katie looked at the swirling data with growing concern. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. Lisa smiled, and this time it was genuine. "Tell the truth," she said. "Explain what happened, why you did what you did, and what you were thinking. Let people see that humans make choices, that violence isn't our first option, but that we're capable of defending ourselves when necessary. There's going to be a hearing, Vernon said. Formal inquiry with representatives from multiple governments. They're going to ask hard questions. Katie nodded. I can handle that, she said. I just told the truth to Qual. I can do it again. Lisa pulled out a datapad and handed it to Katie. This contains everything we know about Dexlar's activities, she said. The sabotage you discovered, the harassment of other workers, the pattern of behavior that led to the confrontation. Study it, understand it, be ready to present it clearly. Katie took the pad, scrolling through the information. It was even worse than she had thought. Dexlar had been targeting non-Vrexian workers for months, causing injuries that were officially classified as accidents, creating an environment of fear that kept people from reporting problems. How did he get away with this for so long? Katie asked, because people were afraid to challenge him, Vernon said. Vrexians have powerful trade agreements, political influence, and a reputation for holding grudges. It was easier to look the other way than to risk making enemies. Until you didn't, Lisa observed, looking at Katie with respect. You gathered evidence, you stood up when it mattered, and when he came at you with violence, you showed exactly why humans survived on Earth. The hearing chamber was designed to accommodate multiple species, with varied seating arrangements and environmental controls that kept everyone comfortable despite their different biological needs. Representatives from 15 worlds attended either in person or through holographic projection, their images floating in designated spaces throughout the room. Katie sat at a simple table in the center of it all. Lisa Chum beside her and Vernon in the audience section reserved for witnesses. Across the chamber, Dexlar sat with his own legal representation, his wrist still in a medical brace despite the accelerated healing treatments he had received. The presiding magistrate was a Kelthian named Vorn, a species known for their impartiality and logical thinking. His crystalline form refracted light in complex patterns as he settled into position, his voice emerging from a translator unit mounted on the bench before him. This hearing will address the incident that occurred in Maintenance Bay 7 of Mayan Colony Epsilon 4, Vorn announced, his translated voice carrying clearly through the chamber. We will hear testimony from all involved parties and review evidence before making determinations regarding both the immediate incident and the broader implications. The Vrexian representative, Ambassador Krell, stood immediately. His scales gleamed dark red in the chamber's lighting, a color that Katie had learned signaled aggression in Vrexian body language. The Vrexian Confederacy demands justice for this unprovoked attack, he declared. 3 of our citizens were brutally assaulted by this human, who has shown herself to be violent and dangerous. Lisa stood in response, her posture calm but commanding. The Terran Coordination Office categorically rejects that characterization, she said. Engineer Morrison acted in lawful self-defense against armed assailants. We have evidence of premeditation, conspiracy, and attempted murder. Vorn's crystalline form pulsed with faint light. Both sides will have opportunity to present their cases, he said. We begin with the factual timeline. Investigator Qual, please present your findings. Qual moved to the center of the chamber, his holographic display activating to show a 3-dimensional reconstruction of the maintenance bay. On the date in question, Engineer Morrison was performing routine maintenance when she was confronted by Dexlar and 2 associates, he explained. What happened next is documented by security footage. The recording played for everyone to see. Katie watched the faces of the various representatives as they observed Dexlar raising his weapon, a lightning-fast response, the brief and brutal fight that followed. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably, while others leaned forward with interest. When the footage ended, Ambassador Krell spoke again. This recording shows exactly what we have claimed, he said. A human using excessive force against Rexian citizens. Broken bones, internal injuries, psychological trauma. These are not the actions of someone defending themselves. The recording shows Dexlar initiating violence with a deadly weapon, Lisa countered. Engineer Morrison used appropriate force to neutralize that threat. Nothing more. Vaughn's light pulsed thoughtfully. We will hear testimony from witnesses, he decided. Pip of the Quan Commonwealth, please come forward. Pip approached the witness stand with small, hesitant steps. His gray fur was groomed carefully for the formal occasion, but his nervousness was obvious in the way his ears twitched and flattened. He took the oath to tell the truth and waited for questions. Please describe what you witnessed. Vaughn instructed. Pip's voice was quiet but clear. Dexlar has been making life difficult for those of us who are smaller than Rexians, he began. Equipment would malfunction in dangerous ways, but only for certain workers. I tried to report it, but no one would listen. Did you witness the confrontation between Dexlar and Engineer Morrison? Vaughn asked. Yes, Pip said, his voice growing stronger. Katie was fixing the equipment I use, making it safe again. Dexlar came in angry, demanding to know what she was doing. When she said someone had been tampering with the machines, he became violent. What did he do? Lisa asked gently. Pip's ears flattened completely. He grabbed me and threw me against the wall, he said quietly. I thought he was going to kill me. Then he turned on Katie with that weapon, that modified plasma cutter. He raised it to strike her. And what did Engineer Morrison do? Vaughn asked. She asked him to put me down first, Pip said, his large eyes finding Katie across the chamber. Even when he had a weapon, even when I was hurt, she still tried to de-escalate. It was only when he moved to attack that she defended herself. Ambassador Krell stood abruptly. The witness is biased, he protested. He is friends with the human. His testimony cannot be trusted. Vaughn's light flashed sharply. The witness has taken an oath, he said coldly. Unless you have evidence of perjury, his testimony stands. Lisa called several more witnesses over the next hour. Other colony workers who testified about Dexlar's pattern of harassment. Safety officers who confirmed the equipment tampering. Medical personnel who documented the injuries that had been occurring with suspicious frequency. Each testimony built a picture of systematic targeting and deliberate cruelty. When it was Katie's turn to testify, she approached the stand with calm composure. She took the oath and waited, meeting Vaughn's crystalline gaze without flinching. Engineer Morrison. Vaughn began. Please describe in your own words what happened in Maintenance Bay 7. Katie took a breath and began. I had been investigating equipment malfunctions that were causing injuries, she said. I found evidence of deliberate sabotage targeting smaller species. When I confronted Dexlar about it, he became violent. He assaulted my colleague Pip, then raised a weapon against me. Why did you fight back? Vaughn asked. Why not attempt to flee or call for help? There wasn't time, Katie said simply. He was between me and the exit, and he was already in motion. If I had tried to run, he would have struck me from behind. I defended myself using techniques my father taught me, applying only enough force to stop the immediate threat. A representative from the Dendari coalition spoke up. Her multiple eyes focused intently on Katie. You injured 3 Rexian warriors, she said. Trained fighters from a warrior culture. How is this possible for someone of your size and apparent physical capability? Katie considered her answer carefully. Humans evolved on a Class 12 death world, she explained. Earth has gravity approximately 3 times what Rexians experience on their homeworld. Our muscle density, bone structure, and reflex speed adapted to survive in that environment. What seems like exceptional strength to other species is just normal for us. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Several representatives were clearly doing calculations. Imagining what an entire military force of beings with Katie's capabilities might mean, Ambassador Krell seized on this. "You see," he said to the assembly, "humans are dangerous, far more capable of violence than they have admitted. They are Deathworlders pretending to be peaceful, hiding their true nature until convenient." Lisa stood, her expression hardening. "The ambassador makes our point for us," she said. "Humans are indeed physically superior to most species we have encountered. We could use that advantage to dominate, to conquer, to impose our will on others. Instead, we choose cooperation and friendship. We choose peace. Until you don't." Krell shot back. "Until we're attacked," Lisa corrected sharply. "There is a fundamental difference. Engineer Morrison didn't seek out this fight. She tried to resolve it peacefully. She gave warnings. She attempted de-escalation. It was only when Dexler raised his weapon that she responded with force." Vorn's light pulsed in a pattern that suggested deep thought. "Engineer Morrison," he said, "I have reviewed the footage multiple times. You had several opportunities to inflict fatal injuries on your attackers. Why did you choose not to?" Katie met his gaze directly. "Because being strong enough to kill someone means you're also strong enough to choose not to," she said. "My father taught me that violence should be a last resort, and when it becomes necessary, it should be controlled and proportionate. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted to stop them from hurting me and others." A Pelthian observer spoke up. "But you are capable of lethal force?" he asked. "Yes," Katie admitted. "Every human is. We're apex predators from a world that tried to kill us constantly. We evolved to fight and to win. But we also evolved intelligence and empathy. We can choose when and how to use our capabilities. And if Dexler had continued his attack," Vorn asked, "if stopping him required lethal force?" Katie's expression was grave. "Then I would have done what was necessary to protect myself and Pip," she said quietly. "I don't want to kill anyone, but I won't die to avoid making other species uncomfortable with what humans are capable of." The hearing continued for hours, with arguments and counter-arguments, evidence and testimony, legal precedents and cultural considerations. But the core question remained the same. Were humans dangerous aggressors who needed to be controlled, or were they allies who would defend themselves and others when necessary? As the session finally drew to a close, Vorn announced that the magistrate panel would deliberate and render a decision within 2 standard days. The representatives filed out, talking among themselves in hushed tones, while Katie remained seated with Lisa. "How do you think it went?" Katie asked quietly. 2 days felt like 2 weeks as Katie waited for the magistrate panel's decision. She tried to continue her normal work routine, but the other colonists treated her differently now. Some with newfound respect, others with barely concealed fear, and a few with open hostility that made the workplace tense. Pip stayed close to her during those days, his loyalty unwavering despite the controversy. "People are saying things," he told her quietly during a maintenance shift. "They say humans have been hiding their strength, that you might all be dangerous." Katie set down her tools and looked at her small friend. "Are you afraid of me?" she asked directly. Pip's ears twitched thoughtfully. "No," he said after a moment. "You saved my life. You could have hurt Dexler much worse than you did, but you chose not to. That tells me more about who you are than how strong you might be. I wish everyone saw it that way." Katie said, "Some do," Pip assured her. "The workers Dexler had been targeting are grateful. They finally feel safe. It's the species who benefited from the old power structure who are nervous." Vernon found Katie in the bay later that afternoon. "The magistrate panel has reached a decision," he said. "The hearing reconvenes in 1 hour. Lisa wants you there 30 minutes early to prepare." Katie nodded, her stomach tight with anticipation. Whatever happened next would affect not just her future, but potentially humanity's place in galactic society. She cleaned up quickly and made her way to the hearing chamber. Lisa was already there, reviewing notes on her datapad. She looked up when Katie entered and offered a small smile. "Ready?" she asked. "As ready as I can be," Katie replied. "Do you know what they decided?" "No," Lisa admitted. "Vorn keeps his deliberations completely confidential until the formal announcement. But I've been monitoring diplomatic channels. The reaction has been mixed. Some species are calling for restrictions on human movement and activities, while others are arguing for stronger alliance agreements, all because I defended myself," Katie said quietly. Lisa put a hand on her shoulder. "All because the galaxy finally saw what humans really are," she corrected. "This was always going to happen eventually. You just became the catalyst." The chamber filled quickly as the hour approached. The same representatives returned, along with additional observers from species governments who hadn't attended the initial hearing. The gallery was packed with colonists and journalists whose holographic feeds would carry the decision to billions of viewers across known space. Thexler entered with his legal team, his wrist no longer in a brace, but his expression dark with barely contained anger. He didn't look at Katie, but she could feel his resentment like a physical weight vern crystallized into position at the magistrate's bench, his form refracting light in complex patterns that suggested deep thought. "This hearing is reconvened," he announced. "The magistrate panel has reviewed all evidence and testimony. We are prepared to render our decision." The chamber fell absolutely silent. Katie's heart hammered in her chest as Vorn continued. "The charges against engineer Katie Morrison are dismissed in their entirety," Vorn declared. "The evidence clearly shows she acted in lawful self-defense against armed assault. Her response was measured and appropriate to the threat presented." Relief flooded through Katie. But Vorn wasn't finished. Furthermore, the magistrate continued, "We find that Dexler and his associates did willfully and deliberately engage in sabotage of safety equipment, harassment of colony workers, and attempted assault with a deadly weapon. They are hereby found guilty on all charges." Ambassador Krell was on his feet immediately. "This is an outrage," he shouted. "You are punishing Vrexian citizens for defending their honor against an aggressive Deathworlder." Vorn's crystalline form flashed with sharp light. "Ambassador Krell, you will maintain decorum or be removed from these proceedings," he said coldly. "The evidence against your citizens is overwhelming and incontrovertible. They committed crimes, they were caught, and they will face consequences." He turned his attention back to the full assembly. "However, this case raises questions that extend beyond the immediate criminal matter," Vorn acknowledged. "The revelation of humanity's true physical capabilities has created uncertainty and concern among many species. The panel feels it is necessary to address this broader issue." Katie tensed, wondering what was coming next. "Humans are indeed physically superior to most species in this assembly," Vorn stated. "Their designation as Deathworlders is accurate and significant. They possess strength, speed, and resilience that could make them formidable aggressors if they chose that path." Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. Katie could see fear in some of their expressions. "But," Vorn continued, his voice taking on a different tone, "the evidence also shows that humans consistently choose cooperation over conflict. Engineer Morrison had multiple opportunities to inflict lethal harm, but deliberately chose non-lethal responses. This pattern extends to humanity's broader diplomatic record. In 5 years of galactic contact, humans have resolved disputes peacefully, honored agreements faithfully, and contributed positively to galactic society." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The panel finds that humanity's physical capabilities make them valuable allies, not dangerous enemies. Their choice to pursue peace from a position of strength demonstrates wisdom and maturity. We recommend that species governments strengthen their alliance agreements with Earth rather than imposing restrictions. Katie felt tears prick her eyes. It was more than she had hoped for, a validation not just of her actions, but of humanity's character. The Dendari representative spoke up. "What about future incidents?" she asked. "How can we be certain humans will continue to show restraint?" Lisa stood to answer. "The same way you can be certain about any species," she said. "By building relationships based on trust and mutual respect. Humans will defend themselves when attacked, just as any species would. But we have no interest in conquest or domination. We want to be partners in building a better galaxy." A Quillen observer added his voice. "Engineer Morrison saved one of our citizens," he said. "She put herself at risk to protect someone smaller and weaker. This is not the behavior of aggressors. This is the behavior of protectors." Other voices joined in. Species who had worked with humans and found them reliable and trustworthy. The conversation shifted from fear and suspicion to possibility and potential. Vern allowed the discussion to continue for several minutes before calling for order. "The magistrate panel's decision is final," he announced. "Dexler and his associates will serve sentences appropriate to their crimes. Engineer Morrison is commended for her restraint and courage. And humanity's place in galactic society is confirmed as that of valued allies." He looked directly at Katie. "Engineer Morrison, you asked why being strong enough to kill means being strong enough not to. That question cuts to the heart of civilization itself. Power without wisdom leads to tyranny. Wisdom without power leads to victimhood. Humanity appears to possess both, and the galaxy is better for it." The hearing was formally concluded, and as the representatives began to file out, several approached Katie directly. The Quillen observer thanked her for protecting Pip. The Dendari representative expressed interest in cultural exchange programs. Even some of the species who had seemed fearful offered respectful acknowledgement. Ambassador Krull left without a word, his expression dark, but Katie noticed that not all the Vrexian observers shared his anger. One younger Vrexian actually nodded to her as he passed, a gesture of respect that surprised her when the chamber finally cleared. Katie found herself surrounded by a small group: Lisa, Vernon, and Pip, along with a few other colonists who had supported her throughout the ordeal. "You did it," Vernon said simply. "You stood up for what was right and made the galaxy see the truth about humanity." Katie shook her head. "I just defended myself and a friend," she said. "You're all making it bigger than it was." "It is bigger," Lisa said gently. "Whether you wanted it or not, you became a symbol. The human who showed the galaxy that our species chooses peace but won't be victims. That message matters." Pip hugged Katie's leg, his small arms barely reaching around. "Thank you," he said softly. "For everything." Katie knelt down to his level. "Thank you for trusting me," she replied. "For being my friend even when it was complicated." The group walked together back toward the residential sections of the colony, talking about what would happen next. Katie would return to her engineering work, though with additional security measures in place. Dexler and his associates would be transferred to Vrexian custody to serve their sentences. And the galaxy would continue to adjust to the reality of human capabilities. "What do you think happens now?" Katie asked Lisa as they walked. "Will things really change?" Lisa considered the question carefully. "Change is already happening," she said. "Species are reassessing their assumptions about humanity. Some will embrace closer cooperation, others will remain cautious, and a few might become hostile. But the truth is out now. We can't go back to being the mysterious newcomers who might be harmless. Are you okay with that?" Vernon asked. Katie thought about it, about everything that had happened, about the fight in the hearing and the weight of representing her entire species. "I think so," she said finally. "I never wanted to hide what humans are. I just wanted to do my job and live my life.